Hello, this is Ethan Jackson. This is my Year 12 PE, my left foot 2.2 assessment. My sporting activity is a soccer penalty kick. My dominant side is my right side and my non-dominant side is my left side. I have three biomechanical principles, and the three biomechanical principles are force summation, Newton's second law, and projectile motion. The first principle that I'm going to touch on is the law of force summation. For me to apply enough force to kick the ball and make it travel as fast as possible, I will need to use as many segments in the body as possible, using as many muscles in the correct sequence from larger to smaller muscle groups, the correct timing between the larger and smaller muscle groups, and a bigger range of motion. With my right-footed kick, the sequence and timing is correct, as I am familiar with my right foot. With my dominant side, I start the sequence by using my larger muscle groups to create majority of the force, which then transfers to the smaller muscle groups, which add even more force. My kick begins when I approach the ball, standing from a stationary position, which gives me momentum before I make contact with the ball. With this momentum, the force is already starting to add up. As I am in front of the ball, the first movement in the kicking sequence is hip extension. This happens right about here. At that point in the kick, my leg has gone behind my hip and my leg is hip extension has occurred. This movement occurs at the hip joint, which is a synovial ball and socket joint made up of the pelvis and the femur. This movement is produced by reciprocal inhibition between the gluteals and the hip flexors. The gluteals are the agonists in the movement as they shorten and contract to pull on the femur, while the hip flexors are the agonist as they lengthen and relax to keep the movement smooth and controlled. The next movement is knee flexion, and that occurs at this point in the kick. As you can see, my knee has flexed. This movement occurs at the knee joint, which is a synovial hinge joint made up of the patella, the femur, the tibia and the fibula. Reciprocal inhibition produces this movement also. The agonist in knee flexion is the hamstring as it shortens and contracts to pull on the tibia and the fibula, drawing my foot back, while the agonist is the quadricep as it lengthens and relaxes to keep the movement smooth and controlled. At this point in my kick, I am now ready to make contact with the ball, and the first movement is hip flexion, which occurs here. My knee is still flexed, but my hip has started to flex as well before my knee extends. This occurs at the same joint as hip extension with the same bones, only this time the hip flexors are the agonist as they shorten and contract to pull on the femur, while the hamstring is the agonist as antagonist as it lengthens and relaxes to keep the movement smooth and controlled. The next movement is knee extension, which occurs before the end of the hip flexion movement. Knee extension occurs here. As you can see, my knee is now extended and it will continue to extend. This occurs at the same joint as knee flexion, with the same bones as knee flexion, only this time the quadricep is the agonist as it shortens and contracts to pull on the tibia and the fibula, moving my foot through the kicking arc, while the hamstring is the antagonist as it lengthens and relaxes to keep the movement controlled and smooth. Once my knee has fully extended, as you can see there, my leg is now straight, hip extension continues on from here through to there. This is my follow through of the kick after the contact, and this follow through maintains my technique and makes sure that I'm producing and adding force to the kick the whole way through the arc that my foot travels, not stopping at any point along the arc and continuing on even after I've made contact with the ball. With all of these movements linked together, the larger muscle groups and smaller muscle groups in time and sequence, maximum force is applied to the ball, and the ball is kicked into the net with maximum speed. Second principle in the soccer penalty kick is Newton's second law. Newton's second law states that the acceleration of a body is proportional to the force causing it in the direction it acts. Also, the rule of F equals ma is relevant to Newton's second law. The second law applies because with my right foot I can easily generate enough force to send the ball into the goal with maximum speed, but I can't with my left. I can generate more force with my right because of the sequence of kicking the ball is familiar on my right dominant side. Another reason I can generate more force is because my right foot can accelerate through the arc of the kick. The arc of the kick is here with my foot. Well, there with my foot. My right foot can do this faster than my left. With my right foot moving faster than my left, this means that more force is applied because F equals ma. So higher acceleration, more force is applied to the ball. With more force being applied to the ball, the faster the ball will travel, meaning that the ball will go into the net faster. My right foot accelerates through the kick faster than my left because of the amount of fast twitch fibers in my white quadricep. My white quadricep is the muscle that pulls in knee extension, as it is the agonist, moving my foot through the arc very quickly rather than sluggishly like my left does. My right foot has more fast twitch fibers because I have been kicking with it my whole life. I have never practiced my left foot at all. Over all the years, with my right foot being the only kicking foot, the fast twitch fibers have exercised and have developed. With the exercised and developed fast twitch fibers, means my right foot can kick through the arc extremely fast compared to my left. The third principle in my soccer kick is projectile motion. Projectile motion with a soccer kick is very different than projectile motion with a basketball kick, so it will be changed up a bit. The first principle, for me to accurately kick the soccer ball into the goal, I need to make contact with the ball in an area which will set it off in a path, direction, that will make the ball go into the goal. This is because the ball is a sphere, so depending on the area that I make contact with the ball will set it off in a path or a direction equivalent, opposite to where I made contact with the area of the ball. Will set it off in that path. The speed in which my foot makes contact is fast enough, with enough force behind it, that it will travel towards the goal as quickly as possible without external forces such as gravity, air resistance, or drag acting on the ball to change its path or its motion. My left foot is substantially less practiced than my right foot, so it is a lot more uncoordinated in a soccer penalty kick. Because my right foot has been practiced more, I am used to kicking with my right foot, and my right foot will make contact with the ball in an area which will send it on a path towards the goal. My foot makes contact with the ball in the lower half of the ball, so that is the halfway. My foot makes contact with the ball down in this part of the ball. So, looking at it here, if this is where my foot is made contact with, that area there, the ball is going to be set off in that direction, as the ball is a sphere. Because the force has been added there, it will travel through just like that. That is what is giving my ball the height of its path. As you can see, the ball gains vertical height, travels into the net. Another reason why projectile motion is better with my right foot is because the sequence of kicking with my right foot is very familiar to me, so I can successfully use force summation between my larger muscles and smaller muscles in the right sequence with the right timing. This means that the ball will be contacted with and kicked with maximum force behind it, meaning it will take longer for external forces like gravity and drag to act upon the soccer ball and alter its path. As you can see, as I approach the ball, my momentum is starting to gain. I use the sequence between my larger muscles and my smaller muscles, make contact with the ball, make contact with the ball in the right area, giving it height, and giving it enough force to send it into the goal without air resistance, without drag, or without gravity altering its path. You can see it does not slow down. It starts to lower a bit as it approaches the goal, but only near the end. And yeah, that is my dominant side, all the principles for my dominant side of kicking.